I decided to get out of my nighttime hoodie and go into my daytime hoodie. So in this KitchenAid bowl, you can warm the bowl, you don't have to. I didn't. I have 3.5 cups of flour. To that, I'm adding 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I add 3 teaspoons of sugar, so that's all in there. 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. This is instant yeast. That's equivalent to a package of yeast, just in case people are using packages. My recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of oil. I freehand mix it. Now, I have 1.5 cups of water, and it's about 110 degrees. I'm only going to dump a cup of water in here. I'm going to attach it to my KitchenAid, and I'm going to watch my dough. This dough is going to knead for about 5 minutes. I have my oven going at 350. It's on, it's warm. I'm just going to shut it off now. This is going to super proof it, so it's going to proof it a little bit faster. So right now I have it on 2 and it's kneading, and I'm just watching my dough kind of come together. It's usually, I would say, between 1.25 cups and 2 cups. My kids and my husband and my whole family love cinnamon buns, so I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of cinnamon. I've used bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour in this recipe and you'll be fine. We may need to add a little bit of more flour to that, only because I did go ahead and add that whole 1.5 cups of water, and that's going to knead for about 5 minutes. It would need to go into an oiled bowl and rise, and usually if I put it into a preheated oven that was cooled down, it would take about an hour. But have a look at what that looks like. It's a little too tacky for me, so I'm actually going to add a couple of heaping teaspoons of flour to that. I put 3 in, and now my dough is actually starting to really come together. Like, it's starting to be the consistency that I want. So I'm just going to leave this to knead off for about 5 to 7 minutes. You can knead this by hand as well, and that's okay. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. So here we are. We're finished kneading. I'm just going to pull it off of my dough hook. This is going to be tacky, and I want it to be tacky because when it's done rising, I'm going to add a little more flour to it. This is how I like to make it. See my dough ball? Isn't that beautiful? So I'm just going to take this dough ball. I'm going to go ahead and throw it in here into an oiled bowl. You can oil it with butter, olive oil, Pam cooking spray, vegetable oil. It does not matter. And I want to get all the dough off the side. There isn't really a lot of dough on the side. My bowl is pretty clean. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a ball, spin it around. So our dough is done. It's in an oiled bowl. I'm going to cover it with a lint-free tea towel. I personally like the ones from IKEA, and IKEA does not sponsor my video. I'm going to put it into this warm oven. And I'm pretty much going to forget about that for about an hour. I want to see that it's doubled in size. And once it's doubled in size, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shape and make the cinnamon buns. I decided to get out of my nighttime hoodie and go into my daytime hoodie. That is our cinnamon dough. And I have to tell you, it smells really, really good. So it is more than doubled in size. So I'm just going to take some flour, toss it down on my board. I'm going to take my dough, I'm going to do the little knead here just to get it in. I'm just going to dump it out onto my board. So now I'm just going to put a little bit of bread flour down here. I'm going to knead it a little bit, and what I'm doing actually is I'm going to shape it because like I said, I am making this into cinnamon rolls or buns, or everybody calls them something different. So whether it's sticky buns, cinnamon buns, I don't know. My family thinks they're delicious. I want this into a rectangle. This recipe, it all depends on you how much this yields. Typically, it's 24. I like a big fat cinnamon roll, and so does my family. So usually it's about 16 to 18. It just depends again on how thick you roll it out and how thin you make the dough. Now, remember earlier I said that this was tacky. It's not tacky at all now, and it's going to be easy to work with. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll this out. I have rolled this out. It's about 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch thin. I just took my little cutter and just squared it off. So now I'm going to use about 1/4 of a cup of butter. Okay, I've preheated my oven to 325, and now I'm going to use, it's going to be about 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, and we're just going to sprinkle it over the dough. So you'll notice that I'm trying to keep this edge kind of clean. That's so that nothing escapes when we're doing the cinnamon buns. The last I have to do is do the sprinkle of cinnamon. If I was to measure it out, it would be like maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon. The reason is there's lots of cinnamon in the dough. This edge, if I was rolling the dough this way, I would have kept this edge clean. But I'm rolling it this way because I want to maximize the amount of rolls I'm going to make. Okay, so I do not like the ugly ends, so I took those off. What I do is I usually make an indentation of how big I want them. Okay, so now I have 18. I'm just going to cut. So I've got some of them cut. I'm going to put 6 in this bowl or in the dish. Now, these are going to rise. So again, sometimes I will make these in a big, huge roasting pan too, if it's for my own house. Oh, we're one short. So this is where these ugly ends come in. And I'm going to throw them right there. And see all this cinnamon and brown sugar sprinkle? I'm going to put that on the top. 1. So 18 is what I was going for. That's what I got. I'm going to let these guys rest for half an hour, and then we are going to bake them. These are cinnamon buns. They've baked for about 30 minutes at 350. I am just using a regular icing from a store because that's what I have. I could use icing sugar and milk. So usually it's like 2/3 of a cup of milk, or 2/3 of a cup of icing sugar, to 2 tablespoons of milk. That's usually what we would do. But you want to make sure you frost these when they're hot. That's it. Those are cinnamon buns. I'm going to let them cool. You can eat them hot. I usually advise my kids to wait 15 minutes before they jam their hands in there. But other than that, they're pretty easy to make. Push like, subscribe, make cinnamon buns.